The podcast you are listening to of Holmberg's Morning Sickness is brought to you by my friends at Eric's Family Barbecue in Avondale. Meat, mesquite, repeat. Trust me on this one. You've had barbecue before, but you haven't had it this good. Eric's Family Barbecue in Avondale, ericsfamilybbq.com.
Eric's Family Barbecue has arrived and is simply the best barbecue in Arizona. Come satisfy your taste buds with meats that are smoked over mesquite wood and sides that are made with fresh ingredients and tons of love. They have the best, juiciest brisket, pulled pork, rib sausage, turkey, or everyone's favorite, the Pitmaster sampler that includes all the meat in 4 sides, mac and cheese, potato salad, coleslaw, corn, or beans, yum. And for dessert, try some creamy banana pudding, amazing. Eric's Family Barbecue in Avondale. Meat, mesquite, repeat. Make the trip, you won't be sorry. Dine in or take it to go. Go to ericsfamilybbq.com for more info.
This man needs medical attention.
Holmberg's Morning Sickness.
The old method of treatment for a person in this condition was to throw him in jail.
98 KUPD.
Good morning, everybody. Hello there. Welcome to the Morning Sickness. It's Wednesday at 5:45. Let's do this thing. My name's John Holmberg. There's Brady Bogan, Brett Festley, Big Dick Toledo. Off we go for another glorious day, although not so glorious. Very strange moment yesterday. You guys don't even know this. Wait till you hear this one. So there we are. Yesterday I had a meeting with the guys from Stand Up Live and Copper Blues. Or just one, Matt. Little tiny Matt. There was a Brett, you'll love this.
All right.
So Larry McFeely, we all know, is of the Jewish persuasion,
yes,
correct?
Yes.
That's not an insult to people who think I just called them cheap. I didn't. Lane is another person here who is also a Jewish person. Matt Coman is here. Yeah. We went into the little kitchen area to grab a drink and just, Tom, the sales guy's in there. And Matt knows Tom, so they were going to go chat. So he says, "Where's Tom?" I took him to the kitchen area. Larry points to, Lane comes in. Larry, Lane, and Matt are all in, like we've corralled the Jews into one spot. It's been done before. Never so joyously. So we had them all in the kitchen, and Larry points at Matt Coman from behind to Lane and says, "Huh?" to Lane, and Lane goes, "Oh, yeah, I know. He's another one." And Larry's like, No. Look, there's barbecue at the table. He was pointing past Matt, but she looked at him and said, "Yeah, he looks." So I told Matt, I'm like, the saddest part of that is she doesn't know you, and she just thought, "He looks pretty Jewy." Yeah, they knew what they were. They had like this weird kind of communication of there's a fellow,
one of us,
person of the shul was in the room and said, but he just pointed in the direction of Matt, and she turns and goes, "Yeah, I know, he's very Jewy." And I told Matt, I'm like, you don't like short and small little Jewish guy, but they just point at you, and other Jews recognize your Jewishness. It's a curse, Matt says. And well,
and today's a big day.
For the Jews, yeah. Well, we were talking about that and getting Larry in here to make us bagels and bring something in. It's Atonement Day, Yom Kippur, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they atone for stuff. But evidently they do that through some sort of meal. And Matt was trying to talk Larry into making those bagels.
And is it going to happen?
Oh, man. Larry's parents owned that bakery for 100 years down.
A famous Jewish bakery in Phoenix.
Yeah. Karsh's Bakery was Larry's family. And Larry can make those bagels at home.
He worked on it for like a year.
It was. He makes, and they're good. Like people, but he's very Jewish with them. He doesn't bring them out too often. They're hard to make. I mean, especially in a home oven and stuff. But man, he's crushed out a few. Remember, for a while he was making them every day.
Yeah,
and he'd come in with the Asiago cheese and doing ones like he was going to start his own place, and then it just stopped. Oh, it's so good. Anyway, so Matt was here yesterday from the clubs. And we're talking about some stuff. I got a Halloween show with the band we're going to do. Night of the Singing Dead again. That was supposed to be an annual event, but of course COVID ruined that. So we're getting that thing together for the 30th of October. We're very excited about that. And Matt and I start talking about the Happy Endings comedy show. And just, ideas of who to get on the bill and whatever. And we're throwing names around and seeing who's this, who's that. One that keeps popping up. Matt's not so sure is a good idea.
Is that the one we were talking about the other day?
It's Steve-O.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and we're talking about Steve-O, and maybe he's there, maybe he's not. We don't know, and there's no formal offer. We throw out a bunch of other names. This is probably about 11 in the morning. Matt says, I got Norm coming January. We could switch that out. Because I like to have that we have in a relationship with him. Like over the years, we've met so many. I'm a huge comedy fan. I love, I've always been, I used to stay up late at night and watch comedians. My dad and I used to listen to cassette tapes of comedians. He didn't even like them. I got my dad into it. As a kid, I've always loved it. And so he brings up Norm. And I'm like, well, we've got hours with Norm. Norm is a great story for our 20th anniversary because he was actually the very first person I ever did an interview with on the radio, which was at The Zone with Jim Sharp. And Jim was doing the show and I was producing it. And Jim didn't know. He knew of Norm. I'm like, I know this guy up and down. It's like one of my idols as far as the way funny works. I'll never have a brain like Norm MacDonald. Nobody did. And I said and I told Matt this, and I'm like, well, Jesus, if we can pull that off, I think Norm might be a little bit strange, but along with another, like we could get Lovitz and Norm and like people we've had relationships and just have and probably Kevin Nealon and have a Saturday Night Live reunion, right? It would be incredible. And I'm like, that would be. Like, as far as Holmberg's Happy Endings goes, if I could put together something for this, a nostalgic show on our 20th, that would be incredible. So I'm like, amazing. Matt leaves, and not 2 seconds after his car pulls out, the alerts come in that Norm died. The mere mention of doing our show is now killing. Like, Ralphie's dead. Brian Callen decided not to. Jim Brewer doesn't want to do tours anymore. I mean, everybody that's ever done our stuff outside of Nate Bargatze is dead or quitting.
You're the Black Widow.
And now my succubus, mere mention of saying, hey, that would be, to get Norm to headline our thing would be unreal. And I mean, it's done. No. And then, sure enough, Mark Randall and I we were like, I'm not kidding, 2 minutes had passed.
Yeah.
Since let's see if we can get that done.
Maybe we should get Woody to do the show.
So now it's O'Donnell, Woody from The Woody Show. And for no reason at all, Paul Marshall. We're just going to go ahead, knock out any competition that may exist. No, it was crazy. So, and then just a gut punch to find out that Norm MacDonald, the great Norm MacDonald, had cancer for 9 years. Most of the time we knew him.
I know. How many times you come in
and you try to sift through all the memories and thoughts of. I'm upset you didn't. Were you a MacDonald fan?
Yeah, I like MacDonald.
Norm's amazing.
Yeah, he was great.
And it's things that
was
you didn't
story
get to,
time every time he came in.
That one time he just wanted to do a movie scene where he was Super Dave Osborne and I think I did Liam Neeson. He's like, just take one of your impressions to go, I'm like, all right, you get that done. And
it stopped him in his tracks when John went into Liam.
Oh. Yeah, because it was the scene with Fontaine.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He was, is it Vince Fontaine? No, that's
Johnny Fontaine.
Johnny Fontaine.
Yeah.
And he's talking to The Godfather.
Yeah.
And I'll pick out the scene, so he gets on the computer. And there you go, you get that. All right, you read this part, I read that part. All right, then. And so he reads a line, and then I read my line as Liam Neeson. He goes, geez, that's good. And then he did the entire speech. I think he was the Godfather. The entire speech, which is like 2 minutes long. We had to take a break and come back to it because Norm wasn't going to, as Super Dave Osborne.
Wow.
Which was just odd. But as it went on, it kind of was like maybe and as a host, you're kind of like keeping an eye on your internal clock saying, is this still worth doing? And then it started being funny again. Like it did that wave of not funny. And then, okay, this is like, for some reason, this is working again. And he just sat in there and did that.
Fearless.
It was awesome and beyond fearless. Like Norm was just funny. Like the world's a lot less funny without a guy like Norm MacDonald. There are like 3 or 4 people I point to as to just being people that I always watch whatever they do. Not movies. I don't care about their movies because that's not them. But Phil Hartman, Norm MacDonald, and you get into like the old Eddie Murphy stuff, and those are the people that I was like, this is what funny is. And then Brian Regan, who I think is a mind on its own. But
and it's kind of cool. He's one of those comedians that his mind is always working. You can say that about a lot of comedians, but he studied it. He appreciated good humor. He loved the
professor of comedy.
He was,
and as a person of. Always paid attention to that stuff. I remember his hits on Letterman were always because he'd polish them. He never ever took a break on a TV hit or anything like that. And of course, getting fired from Saturday Night Live, the epic story of his executive boss Don Ohlmeyer was friends with O.J. Simpson, And the joke that got him fired was, all right, well, it's finally official here in California, folks. Murder is legal when OJ got off. and Don Ohlmeyer did because he was friends with OJ. And Norm always said the guy got rid of me because I was buddies with I made fun of his golfing buddy. But yeah, and the everybody always does this. I don't like eulogizing people.
Yeah.
I wasn't great friends with. Clearly I wasn't. One time I went to the Improv to drop something. I forget what I was doing, and Norm was there. And we had just had him on. Maybe it was the second or third time. And he's on the top of the stairs. The show's going on, but he's not on yet. The opener's on. And he's standing outside having a smoke or something. And some girl's with him. And I hear him, and I'm coming up that little staircase to go up to the Tempe Improv. And he's like, so, well, if you don't want to, you don't want to. No big deal. And that's what I hear him saying. He goes, hey, there's that guy from the radio. Then I walk by, I'm like, how you doing?
So nonchalant.
How you doing, Norm? He goes, how you doing? Guy from radio. And I had to go, so I was dropping something off, and I just left. You're not going to stay for the show? Or okay, no handshake. And I just left, and I just started laughing. And then, like, the pinnacle of this job, the little small things that come from this are people that when I was young and wanting to be around funny and not understanding what funny was, as far as, like, you think you're humorous and whatever, and then you look at people like, this guy's got to figure it out. Norm MacDonald texting me once was probably the coolest thing that's happened in these 20 years. That was that, and it only happened because Frank Caliendo was such a huge fan, and numbers were exchanged, and did a thing. I think it was the time we did the Godfather thing, and he was super complimentary afterwards, and then threw a text my direction, and I was like, that might be what I've always wanted here. That's just those
you should
moments.
do something with that.
I mean, he didn't say anything like
I know.
that. It was probably something mean, but it was like something about his number, and it was just that surreal moment where that fourth wall of somebody I truly kind of, and I don't do this much, sort of idolized in a how does your head work way. It just threw a hello at me. It's the craziest, and those are those moments I don't take for. I do take for granted, and I need to stop. I'm a guy who doesn't take pictures with people. I don't have memories all over my house of this stuff. I try to keep it in my head, and those are those moments I regret.
That is freaky in a way when you say that. It's like not intentionally, but now all of a sudden, way back when he would always, you'd ask him to do something I never thought he would do, and I don't know who between you and I, but when we did my wedding video.
Oh yeah.
And without doing it, he's doing it. And I was thinking about it to him, like,
yeah, he was on your wedding video. Are there dead ones?
Is Ralphie on there? I can't remember.
Oh, Ralphie's definitely on there. I'm positive of that. So you're killing people.
Wayne Static too.
Again, though, that word, yeah, exactly. Wayne Static was your wedding man.
Yeah,
we're
it's a marathon.
No good, man.
Look at the time. I think I'm
it's
gonna.
No good. Yeah, and again, you're on for 20 years. People are going to start dying.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and I said, Carson and Letterman were always the people I look to as like, man, I guess maybe it's innate in people who do this stupid job or are meant to do this, is this hosting thing. I always marveled at the ability to direct a show with people, just other people. I always looked at Carson and Letterman as geniuses when it came to like, wow, they're pulling the puppet strings on this thing, and it's going all over the place, especially Letterman. And then I got into like just Phil Hartman being just so smart and funny and brilliantly, concocting ideas, and then Norm. Those are the guys that the first ones I think of when I think of who would I say I always looked up to or admired without ever knowing, and those were the guys. And to get to know Norm that way was, it was a guy. Caliendo texted me yesterday. He was like, I don't have, and you know that, I don't have empathy for death. And I'm kind of the same way. Death is just a thing that happens. I'm sad when it happens. It was a gut punch yesterday. That was a weird one. That was like not supposed to. If anything, I've been doing Norm's voice for your dad because I think they said like your dad sounds like old Norm. So now my Norm impression has turned into your dad, and now more your dad than Norm. But
there goes that bet.
Who would have ever guessed Torp would have outlasted Norm MacDonald? But yeah, it's strange when people we didn't.
It hits home a little bit.
I'm not going to claim to be his friend. I'm not going to pull a Pratt here and say, "Oh, we were buddies," and this we weren't. But it was.
I came in just enough, and there's enough. Every time, there's that handful of those comedians that you come in, and a lot of the talking is off the air.
Yeah,
that are just amazing. discussions.
I always know I was in trouble because during a story, he'd go, yeah, you got a dump button? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, oh, God. And he'd take it all the way to the end and then clip us with something massive. And I just always loved his ability to lead you down a path. And sometimes his stand-up at the Improv or whatever, he was just experimenting. And he was the best. And again, silly little moments that I've always taken for granted that I'm trying to be better about. I think it's age. I think you get older and you start realizing I've kind of let 20 years pass me. And I think it's a lesson for everybody to really sit back and smell the roses, which I have never done and am trying to be better about. Thanks, therapy. But I truly am. Like, I've always just let everything blow by and, like, it's all what's next, and never what has happened.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like celebrating the 20-year anniversary. They want to do parties. I'm like, no. I'm supposed to work for I don't want to look back. Forward, because looking back means you're done. There's not, like you said, there's nothing in your rearview mirror that can help you going forward if you keep looking at it. You just carry it with you. But sometimes you have to pull the car over and hit one of those scenic vistas, and I've never done it. And yesterday got me thinking at the time that I actually did have, like, giddy schoolgirl moment when Norm knew my name before he said, hey, it's a Holmberg.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy crap. These are surreal seconds of an idiot's life who's
he
always
enjoyed coming in.
He was great. That was a gut punch yesterday. Frank said the same thing. This is affecting me, and I'm not affected by these things. It's really strange. So losing Norm was rough.
If you want the example, what you're talking about of taking time to appreciate, the old saying, stop and smell the roses. Yeah. The Bill Wyman documentary from the Rolling Stones is on Netflix. Pretty amazing. And that is a guy, the one member of the band that did that his whole life. No one ever knew. I mean, he's got a collection.
Oh, he was collecting?
He would collect film, and he just was, you'd see him back there playing the bass, and that's what he did. He
was the boring one next to Charlie.
Yep.
Yeah. I see, and
it's worth
still
watching
don't,
because he's a guy that, like, and that's what musicians were reflecting. It's like, man, he really just would appreciate at that moment playing stadiums.
I've never had it. I've never been good at it. And
it goes by so fast. That's the problem. And
you don't have those things. And everybody always says that, well, what about if your memory starts to fade? And don't you want pictures? And if my memory's fading, the pictures are just going to spark things that are going to piss me off. Because I can't remember this stuff.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, it confuses.
It is.
Yeah. I don't want.
I was there on that.
Is that me? I don't want that. I'll go until the thing doesn't work anymore. But and I think maybe, and to if I have to you guys, I think that attitude for me has kind of permeated the whole show. There is no hallway of photographs of all the people that have come rolling in here and all these. I'm not nostalgic as far as I'm concerned, or the show's concerned. I always think we're going to do something better tomorrow, and it's not this driving ambitiousness. It's just this we'll just do something else tomorrow. It's just this fun day-to-day thing, and I think you start getting around if everybody does it. But those moments when, like, that happens, you're like, geez, it's weird. It's strange that happens. Because when I remember hearing when Ralphie died, I was in the other room, and that was less. That affected me because I always knew as a friend, and we did get to be friends. Ralphie, you, me, we were all friends. And you always knew with Ralphie, he was going to die.
It's a matter of time.
And that call was coming. And that was the helplessness of being his friend, is that you watched this guy killing himself. You watched him dying. Every time you saw him, you're like, this might be it. But you still didn't expect
it. And with everything going, especially towards the end.
The divorce and all. Yeah. But you still didn't know when the call was coming. You just knew it was coming. It was always this looming, impending dark cloud. And when it came, I was more pissed off than and it gets you. It's like, oh, man. And then there's nothing you could have done. There's countless amount of people tried to help Ralphie stop. And it wouldn't. You look at Artie Lang, who was with Norm the first time I interviewed him, and you're like, when is his turn? And everybody says they're waiting for that call from him, although he's straightened up a little bit.
That's amazing.
There's tons of them. But, yeah, he's it was a so there goes happy endings, because that was going to be awesome. And if we could have pulled that, and, when Matt first said it, I'm kind of like, I don't know. Is the celebrity theater and is Norm, 61-year-old Norm, going to drag him out for this, and then we put another, a couple of other headliners on there. You got to mesh that show somehow or another and make it work. And I know Frank would have happily come out again, and because he's been kind of a mainstay with our happy endings thing, and then now it doesn't matter. So we're back to square one. So I really think in hindsight, after all said and done, Norm is a real selfish dick for doing what he did, because we had this planned out as of yesterday that this was going to be the Norm MacDonald happy endings thing, and now, Jesus.
One's closer to Gallagher now.
Is he still alive? Did Gallagher outlive Norm? That's because of all
get Gallagher down there now.
It's all the fruits. You know what?
He's
I
still
do
around.
that. Well, and again, not to disparage Norm, I have tried so hard, and I'm not kidding. Phone calls, pushes. Everybody's pushing back. I want Bill Cosby for the happy innings. Who would have ever got? I would. He said.
And
he was,
what is Matt saying on that?
Oh, he won't do it at all.
Yeah.
He's like, you're paying out of your pocket. I'm like, okay. He's like, you're an insane person. You take all the calls. I'm like, all the calls means all the people. Okay. And I would, and it isn't because I support Bill and he's a free man. I would have him out just to see what the morbid curiosity is bigger than the comedy curiosity. I want to see Bill Cosby's show just to be like, the same way OJ dares have a Twitter and opinions out loud to the public. I like, Bill, what are you going to talk about? The gigantic red elephant in the room, and you're going to do your dentist bit again? I mean, what does he do? So I've been talking to Matt. He just shuts me. Mark won't even think about, but it's the cheapest Bill Cosby would ever be. And then he just canceled his tour again anyway. So Cosby and MacDonald together. I mean, if Norm came on just before Bill Cosby, the jokes would be all about Bill
There's
Cosby.
a guy.
Yeah, it would be amazing. Yeah, a 2-drink minimum at the Cosby Show. Forget about it. We'd have the Four Peaks. We'd put a special beer out.
Oh, man.
Called the Sleep. The Theo. Sleep Theo. I mean, come on.
Or just get some farm money to sponsor it. Big farm money.
Oh, farm. Not like
pharmacy.
PH. Yeah. Yeah, pharmacy would. Yeah, if we could get Glaxo Welcome, if that's still a thing, or Pfizer to get out there and help us out. Either way. And I don't want to be, Mr. Sad Sack on it. That was a tough one yesterday. Norm dying was, and it sucks. We're going to start losing them all. Lunch with Lovitz was another one. Even though I didn't fawn over Lovitz, I always liked John Lovitz. But sitting down and hanging out with John Lovitz, when you break the shell of John Lovitz and become part of his inner self, it's different. Because he is a very closed off, strange man.
Very strange. That was the first time I met him when he was in here. I'm like, wow.
Incredibly strange. But once you've seen him really comfortable.
That's really comfortable?
Yeah, because he has embraced me. But
and everything else around. I mean, that's a safe spot.
Yeah,
right?
I'm okay. And he does it when I'm with Frank. Yep. He goes to Frank. He likes me too. But then Frank and he and I had lunch together, and it was comfortable. I was at dinner once with him, and I was the only one he was comfortable with, and I was like his whoopee. He was leaning on me, like people were around, and he was just in a
Holmberg.
shell, and he's just it. But that's another one that was kind of that moment, like, I can't believe this is a thing in my. The dude I used to watch as The Liar when I was 14.
Golfing with Kevin Nealon.
Nealon was a blast. Yeah,
that was one of the best rounds.
Yeah, it's crazy. Ever. But so we're lucky to have that kind of stuff. But Norm dying stinks. And I got a ton of emails saying people like, oh, Norm, not Norm. A 9-year battle with cancer, and you hide that. And the deadly kind. Not the, not something you just carry around and I'm in remission and whatever. The deadly kind of cancer. So it makes me wonder, when he came in here all fat that time and he said he was eating too many milkshakes to start his day.
Could have been the medication.
There's something going on there, because he got big and fat for like 6 months, and then he was normal. He was normal. So, Norm MacDonald. I want to play something in the 8 o'clock hour, which I think is the most polished comedy I've ever heard in my life. His last hit on Letterman. A, it was hilarious. B, it was probably the most touching thing you can do to tell Dave goodbye, and he did it in 2016 or 15. And I remember going like, hey, that was, as a fan of comedy, as somebody who's watched a lot, that might be the greatest 4 or 5 minutes of stand-up on television, because you hit it all. You were funny, you were new material, and then at the end, this heartfelt tribute of my life wouldn't be anywhere near what it is without you, Letterman, because Letterman loved him. And there was like emotion. It ran the gamut of everything you could imagine. I'm like, that guy, and he said he worked for months on that. He said, I wanted that to be perfect. I'm like, I think you nailed it. So
some of those tributes, what Letterman had to say about Norm and Conan O'Brien.
Oh, his time on Conan. If you go back in YouTube, all Norm stops on Conan, you'd die laughing. Like, you'd have to stop. They're great, because he was filthy. There's a thing he did back when he was on Dennis Miller's old HBO show. I think Chris Rock had him on there too, but he was a time traveler, and all he came back with was terrible cuss words, which was just great. He was the best. So somebody said, "Hey, why don't you have Dave Pratt in Happy Endings?" That's a great idea. Hey, buddy, I don't feel so good. It's working. We could have Pratt do it. If this thing truly kills people or ends careers, I mean, Jay Moore, he doesn't do anything anymore.
Been pretty quiet.
Brewer only does he picks and chooses. I love Jim, but he's pretty much done with show business again. He hates it. Everybody. Callan, he had a nightmare after he did our thing because he got
D'Elia, who was a pop by.
Of course, D'Elia popped by. His life fell apart. Callan and him had to fight back.
We got to keep this quiet.
Ralphie's dead. Norm was like top of the. We were going to make the call yesterday. Let's see if Norm can do this. Literally 2 minutes later, killed him dead. So what I learned from all this is I can't be in a room with 3 Jews at the same time. It's just bad luck for people I love. Yeah, it's crazy. Anyway, a lot less funny today. That is for sure, because that mind was unique all by itself. So tip of the cap to Norm. I know he can't hear me because he's dead and it's all over and stuff, but just the memories. And it makes me really think, and I don't know if this is going to last more than a day. I've been trying real hard for a year or so, maybe more, to smell the rose, to appreciate, not run my life through walls I'm terrible at it. But that doesn't mean I want to start taking photos with everybody that rolls in and turn into John, Jay, and Rich and just have this.
We got plenty that we don't remember.
Oh, I don't. Yeah, look, it's just a life well led when you're like, there's so many things I did that I enjoy that I don't even remember. I think it's great when somebody goes, remember that time you and I did that? I'm like, no. Tell me about it, because it sounds great. And then it turned out we had a great time, and I'm like, oh, yeah. I love that feeling.
Yeah.
I love remember. And that's why I think people like Facebook.
And Instagram.
Well, when it does the throwback thing, when it starts to remind you of things you did on this day.
But I react to it's the cynicism part of it.
I'm loaded.
That I hate. The day that, like yesterday, all of a sudden the people that are posting stuff about, and it, where one of it is a tribute to him, but all of a sudden it turns into more about that
themselves.
person.
Well, that's what Pratt's always known for. When he eulogizes somebody by telling a story about how they loved him so much and they let him play his guitar. And Eddie
but then
Van
I try
Halen
to say, well, they're,
Nobody knows what to say.
James Brown named his band.
Named Dave Band. Ridiculous lies come out of people's mouths when they try to, and I wasn't friends with this guy at all. There's Norm I'd probably have to reintroduce myself if he walked in. He'd remember, like, hey, it's John. That's fine by me. He's not supposed to remember me. He saw him like maybe twice a year. But when we saw each other, there was a connection and a little chemistry and fun, and that's gone, and that stinks. Because I truly somewhat worshipped that brain of his. The quick wit, the ability to formulate a story, the ability to twist something into something funny that wasn't funny is just...
The Super Dave connection.
The Super Dave impressions.
Golfing, how much they golf together.
Oh, him. I thought you meant he and I having our Super Dave impressions.
Yeah, well...
No, but yeah, he golfed.
The actual relationship with Super Dave.
Yeah. Yeah, knowing Super Dave, which is just brutal. Bob Einstein. And he's dead, too, for God's sakes. He's been on the show, but we weren't going to have him headline anything, although I would have loved it. Who will we kill next? That's debatable. Let's get a wake-up song, shall we? 585-9800. We'll scream it together. It's 98 KUPD. Wake up!
Yeah, I want it.
You really, really, really want it?
Yes, I really want it.
You've been listening to Holmberg's Morning Sickness Podcast, brought to you by our friends at Eric's Family Barbecue in Avondale. Meet, mesquite, repeat. Eric'sFamilyBBQ.com.